Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today I am going to tell you why LeBron James was right for making the Lakers hire JJ Redick to be their head coach. We are recording this after the Lakers won their first game of the season, and you could tell a significant difference that this team was a lot more well coached. They had a lot of different strategy, and they were playing more team basketball, team defense. Their offensive strategy, philosophy was a lot different, and everything looked really great. But I wanted to kind of preface this conversation about a narrative that I was hearing people say about LeBron James and his relationships with coaches over his career. Because when Darvin Ham got fired this year, at the end of the 2024 season, there was a lot of people saying it's like, oh, LeBron is a coach killer. They were looking at all of the coaches over the course of his career, and they were saying, oh my God, LeBron is a guy that always gets coaches fired. And I'm here to tell you, if you were listening to someone say that, they are lying to you. They are being a hack. They aren't actually going back and looking at the facts of every single firing and hiring that has happened under LeBron James. Now, with that being said, has LeBron tried to get coaches fired in the past? Yeah, so have other stars. We're going to touch on that a little bit here too. But if you go over LeBron James's career, he actually hasn't had too much influence with head coaches, or as much influence as you would like to think for someone that's been in the league 22 years. So if you go back to his time in Cleveland when he first got drafted there, Paul Silas is the head coach there for the first season and a half, or maybe first season and 3/4. And then what happens? There's an ownership change in Cleveland. Dan Gilbert buys the team, and Dan Gilbert's first move as the owner of the Cavaliers is to fire Paul Silas, and then they elevate Brendan Malone. If you go back and read all of the articles about that, it was like a very shocking move. All of the players were kind of like, this is kind of weird. The coaches were like, the guy that even replaced him was like, I'm surprised this happened. And Brendan Malone, takes over a team. They looked like the Cavs are going to make the playoffs. They go 7-10 down the stretch, and they end up missing the playoffs under their new head coach. Then the next year, they hire Mike Brown. Mike Brown is LeBron's head coach for the next 5 years in Cleveland before he goes to leave for Miami. So the first 7 years of his career, unless you're saying that LeBron at 19 years old influenced Paul Silas getting fired, no interference with coaches at all. Goes to Miami. He actually did want to get Eric Spoelstra fired his first year. He did. He went up to Pat Riley and he said, I want you to fire Eric Spoelstra, and I want you to come down here and coach me. I want to get coached by the best. I want to get coached by a guy that's won 5 NBA championships as a head coach. And Pat Riley said, no, Eric Spoelstra is going to coach you, and you're going to have to deal with that. So tries to make some influence there in Miami, doesn't work. Goes to Cleveland. David Blatt's the head coach there for a year and a half. And then he ends up getting fired mid-season for Tyronn Lue. Okay, did LeBron have some influence in that? Probably. There's nothing reported on that. I've read all the stories, in the moment. There was no reporting that LeBron pushed, David Blatt out. But if we're kind of reading in between the lines, he was okay with it. He was certainly okay with it. So then Tyronn Lue is his coach for the Lakers, for the Cavaliers. They end up winning a title, going to 3 straight finals. Then LeBron goes to the Los Angeles Lakers. Luke Walton was already the coach there. Luke Walton coaches for 1 year. Luke Walton is fired after LeBron's very first year with the Lakers. And then I want to point this out. When the Lakers went and hired Frank Vogel, LeBron wanted 2 coaches over Frank Vogel. He wanted Tyronn Lue, but the Lakers were only willing to offer Tyronn Lue a 3-year contract. Tyronn Lue said, no, I want a 5-year contract. And the Lakers were like, nope, it's 3 years or nothing. So Tyronn Lue was like, all right, nothing then. I'll go be an assistant coach with the Clippers. Then LeBron also wanted Jason Kidd to be the head coach of the Lakers. The Lakers did not want to hire Jason Kidd to be the head coach because he had a domestic violence issue during his basketball career, and the Lakers basically didn't want the bad press from that. That's basically what happened with that. So they ended up settling with Frank Vogel. They hired Jason Kidd as an assistant. If you go fast forward to 2021, so this is the year after they won the title, they lose in the first round to the Phoenix Suns. Jason Kidd gets hired away by the Dallas Mavericks. There was reporting at the time that the Lakers were thinking about, and probably LeBron had influence in this, that they wanted to fire Frank Vogel in the moment there and then elevate Jason Kidd to be the head coach. Jason Kidd gets hired away. They don't get the opportunity to do that. So then you look at the next 2 years are with Darvin Ham. He gets fired. LeBron obviously wasn't the biggest fan of Darvin Ham. Neither, I did think, were other players on the Lakers. And even then, you look at that, the Lakers, JJ Redick wasn't their first choice. They were flirting with Dan Hurley for like a week there, at least a few days there. And then they finally hired JJ Redick. If you look at it throughout the course, the reason I bring that up, if you look at it through the course of his career, actually, more often than not, when LeBron's tried to intervene and get a coach fired, it hasn't worked. And the team has stood up to him and said no. Pat Riley said no. The Lakers said no multiple times on the times that he wanted to get Jason Kidd or Tyronn Lue or even JJ Redick. And then they finally said yes to JJ Redick. So the argument that like, hey, he's this like coach killer that's always, trying to get teams to fire, their coaches is absolutely not true. Now, does LeBron have say in like personnel decisions and stuff like that? Did he have a say in the Russell Westbrook trade? Did he have a say in Cleveland when all of the guys that were associated with his same agency got like huge contract extensions when they, re-signed Talon Horton Tucker, affiliated with Clutch Sports, and let Alex Caruso go to the Bulls? Yeah, he probably, or at least his agency that he probably has a pretty powerful voice in, or the agency that represents him, and he's their, their biggest client, he might have had a little bit something to say with that. But as far as coaches go, no. Before I get into a broader point here, I want to also go back to a time here where there was another player who was one of the top 5, 10, wherever you want to rank him, Magic Johnson, greatest players of all time, where early on in his career, playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, he was called a coach killer, and he got raked through the coals of the media for it. If you guys don't know the story, basically what happened was Magic Johnson gets drafted to the Lakers. The Lakers, Jerry West resigns as head coach. They hire Jack McKinney, and Jack McKinney comes up with the idea of Showtime, which is like this fast-paced, up-tempo type of offense with Magic Johnson orchestrating it all. And basically, Jack McKinney implements that system before the season, and then right before the season starts, he gets into this like really like tragic biking accident that leaves him like mentally debilitated for the rest of his life, and basically is like not like physically or mentally able to like coach at like the way that he was before he got, or when he got hired. So interim head coach Paul Silas comes in, or you say not Paul Silas, Paul Westhead comes in. Paul Westhead's like, hey, I'm just gonna kind of coach this team the way Jack would do it until he comes back, and basically keeps the same philosophy at the kind of the run and gun Showtime Lakers, and the Lakers end up winning the NBA title. Paul Westhead's very first year. Paul Westhead gets called this absolute genius, this basketball revolutionary, because I think at the time he was either the first or one of the only head coaches to win an NBA title their first year as head coach. So then after that, all of these articles came out about how much of a genius he is. He starts, smelling his own farts. And then he comes into the next season. He's like, oh, I'm a genius because all of these articles are written about me, calling me a genius. I'm going to implement my new basketball system because I'm so smart. And then all the Lakers players are like, this is stupid. This sucks. They end up losing in the first round of that season of the playoffs. And they start the very next season. And Paul Westhead still isn't going back to the offense, the game plan strategy that won them the title. And then Magic Johnson, I think it's like 10 games in, says after a game, or it was either after a game or in a press conference, he says, yeah, I'm officially requesting a trade to go to the Detroit Pistons. Because he was tired of Paul Westhead, because he thought he wasn't a good coach, because he was implementing a terrible system that didn't work. And everyone raked Magic through the coals. Jerry Bush, the owner of the Lakers, met with Magic Johnson. Was like, what the hell's going on here? What's wrong? And Magic Johnson was basically like, yeah, Paul Westhead sucks. Get him out of here. To tell the short version of the story. And Jerry Buss is like, all right, yeah, you're more valuable than Paul Westhead. Paul Westhead, see ya. They elevate Pat Riley to be the head coach. You ever heard of him? And the Lakers go on to become the team of the 80s, win 4 NBA championships under Pat Riley. And the reason I am telling you that story, and the reason I told you about all of that stuff with LeBron, was Magic Johnson right in having Paul Westhead fired? Is it necessarily like, the right moral thing to do? No. But was he right? Was it the right decision to hire Pat Riley? If he doesn't say anything, do they win less championships? It was the right thing to do. It was the right thing for the Cavaliers to fire David Blatt in 2016. It was the right thing to do. It would have been the right thing to do for the Lakers to hire Tyronn Lue in 2019 or Jason Kidd, because I think both those guys are better coaches than Frank Vogel. It probably would have been the right thing to fire Frank Vogel in 2021 and elevate Jason Kidd. And I think it was the right decision to fire Darvin Ham and hire JJ Redick. Because again, most of the time when these stars are saying something, and especially if they're two of the smartest basketball players ever, like Magic Johnson or LeBron James, they might know a thing or two about basketball. They might want somebody that is talking basketball and communicate basketball and can teach basketball on a tier that they can, and that can actually conversate in basketball on a tier that they can, which not many people can do, which is why it is very hard to coach these guys, because obviously they have a higher standard for themselves. Obviously, the expectation when you have these guys on your roster and on your team is extremely, extremely high. So you need someone that's able to manage that, someone that's, has the basketball IQ to manage that. And JJ is that guy. So I think this is the right decision. I think it was the right decision when Magic Johnson, said fire Paul Westhead. And even if you're going back to last year, this happened in the NBA last year too. Giannis and the Bucks, they were kind of like, hey, this Adrian Griffin guy maybe isn't cut out for it. Maybe isn't cut out for this stuff. We don't really like what he's done with the defense. We don't like what he's done with the offense, and they end up firing him mid-season. I don't care about players coming in and influencing coaching decisions, because more often than not, when it comes to the head coach, they're right. If you go through, the entirety of times when guys have tried to influence a coaching decision, they're usually right more often than they're not. Now, do they have a 100% hit rate? No. But I would much rather have my star player influence my coaching decisions than my personnel decisions. And I think JJ is a good head coach. I am recording this after the Lakers' first game. I think I mentioned that at the top. And they look pretty dang good. Now, is JJ going to propel the Lakers from a play-in team to a NBA title team? No, I don't think so. I don't know if a coach can have that much influence in the modern day of basketball to elevate a team that high. But I do think this raises the Lakers' floor tremendously, and it might push their ceiling a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers aren't in the play-in this year and actually get one of those top 6 seeds for the first time since 2020. So, yeah, I like the hire. I think you listen to your star players on coaches. Don't listen to them on personnel. So there you have it, guys. I just wanted to set the record straight on this because it was something that was really bothering me. If you guys like this video, please go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. That is the number one thing that you can do to help support this show, and it costs you absolutely $0. Helps us out tremendously in the algorithm. And please go ahead and leave a comment too on what you thought about this video, what you think about, players having influence in head coaching decisions and, everything associated with that. And make sure you check out the rest of the Sports Detectives podcast channel page to find other videos that you might find enjoyable. I talk about football in here, basketball, obviously, because we're getting basketball season starts. We're doing a ton of more basketball videos like this. And, yeah, we talk just about everything on here. So make sure you subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.